Recording. All right, everybody, welcome in as everyone filters in. What we always like to do. If any of you are on the SBA version of this call, you know that we model our sort of icebreaker and intro after what the SBA does for our FL Fast call. So if I'd love to hear if you have any books, podcasts, media, anything that you consistently recommend to your entrepreneurs to read or to learn about entrepreneurship or business. I'd love if you just put them in the chat. We keep a running list of this. I'm putting a link in the chat for everything we've collected so far. So you'll see things from the rainforest, which has been highly recommended. There's a couple podcasts on there. So if you have anything that you kind of consistently use, you consistently recommend, feel free to drop it in the chat. And we'll keep this running list going of resources for all of our entrepreneurship builders and ecosystem members. Oh, interesting. Autobiography of Reginald Lewis. So Joe, while we'll give people a minute or two to sign in, why do you recommend that? What's your
Jack, he has this comment in his book, and he tells the story of his first failed 2 buyouts before he was able to purchase McCall and then segue into purchasing Beatrice back in the 80s. And he says, no matter what, never give up. And I think that's a great model for entrepreneurs, because you are going to face challenges, you are going to face obstacles, but no matter what, never give up. The other thing that I referenced earlier, he talks about is that sometimes you're not ready for the big deal. And he learned from how to prepare and how to really be ready and focused in regards to making the big deal happen and making it work.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I love the message of you need to be ready, right? Preparation helps you get there, or helps you be ready for when the right time comes. So excellent. All right. Well, I see a couple other YouTube channel. Nice. We'll add that to all the recommendations and keep that list going. I think we have most of the folks who are joining here on the call, so I'll go ahead and jump in. You'll see more of an intro from me later, but I'm Jack Hinkle. I'm with the Florida High Tech Corridor, program manager for FL Fast, and I work with our Influence Clustering Initiative. So you'll see me speaking later on today, but first we'll have Amit Agrawal, I'm probably mispronouncing your name, I apologize, talking about all the great work that they're doing at Tampa Bay Wave and some of the resources they have for supporting innovative companies there. And we'll follow up with some resources, announcements, just a quick look at SBR solicitations that are available and that kind of thing. So just for my, some of you might have seen this intro before, but just kind of the intro for why we pull this call together, this innovation ecosystem call, and what our goal is with this. It's really just, we want to have a monthly gathering. We can connect ESOs from across the state, whether you're incubator, accelerator, co-working space, consultant, subject matter experts. So it's just a better way to connect this kind of big geography that we have in Florida to support innovative companies, innovative entrepreneurs, to promote SBRS, TTR, success rates and resources. And so everything's recorded that we do here. We always need to follow up with all the resources that we have. Our goal is to have 1 to 2 guest speakers every month. Sometimes these might be program managers. We'll have some exciting program managers coming in and speaking over the next couple of months. So I'll be excited when we have those sessions. And so it's really just sort of helping the whole entrepreneur support community in the state of Florida connect, and where we can share funding opportunities and other resources that we see, whether it's the SBA or others that are helpful. So that's really the goal of these calls. I'm always open to feedback, to thoughts, to topics you're interested in that maybe we haven't hit yet for speakers. So always feel free to send me a note, send me an email, and we'll sort of pivot this and adapt it as we go to the needs of Florida. And so in terms of what is FAST, what is this program we call FAST? There are 3 main components. So it's outreach, technical and business assistance, and financial support. The outreach part of this call is part of that outreach of connecting with kind of SBIR qualified companies and the ecosystems in the state. And then we do some work as the corridor to outreach to program managers, to folks at the SBA, to make sure they're understanding what the issues that our Florida entrepreneurs are facing. And we can give that feedback and make that 2-way. I won't talk much about technical assistance right now, because I'll spend about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the session today, kind of laying out our schedule for the rest of the year and some of the work that we're doing and the programs that we're going to have. And then on the financial support, one of our last sessions, we had Elizabeth and Jennifer from the corridor talk about the matching grants research program. And so That program is available to match for SBIR's TTR projects or any kind of sponsored research with USF and UCF kind of in the Central Florida part. So I'll share a recording for that after the session as well, so you can learn a bit more about that. But with all that said, I'd love to hand it over to our guest speaker today. So it's Amit Agrawal from the Tampa Bay Wave. We're doing some great work supporting innovative companies, and he's going to share a bit more about what they do and some exciting stuff they have coming up. So Amit.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Jack. Nice to meet everyone, and proud to be speaking here to talk a bit about Wave and fill everybody in. I'll just do a quick intro about myself. So I've been here at the Wave for about 2 years, also been in Florida for that amount of time. Prior to that, I was in Ohio, got my MBA at The Ohio State University, specialized in finance. And so I worked corporate for about 10 years there. But then during the pandemic, just kind of decided to change it all and moved down here, found the Wave, and I've been working here ever since, and really love the change up from Fortune 500 companies to working with startups. So it's been exciting. Every day is a new world, and I'm happy to share some of that today with you all. So let me share my screen here. All right. Should be good to go.
Yep, we can see it.
All right. All right. So we're Tampa Bay Wave. So we're a startup accelerator down in downtown Tampa. I've covered myself, but we started around 2008 as a meetup group. So really informal. Linda Olson is our CEO founder. And she, long story short, she used to work for, big four accounting firms in New York and Boston, but also encountered a lot of startup activity. Had to come down to Florida, again, her home state, for some personal reasons, and just did not find a startup ecosystem here. And she knew she had to build it. It wasn't going to come by itself. She had to build it. So started with the meetup group, quick image here of kind of the initial mission statement. And, 13 years later, we moved into a new office. And then in just this month, we did our grand opening at our second location. And some of you were there last week. And we had Representative Castor and Mayor Castor here. So it was a pretty excellent event. Happy to show out the new space that allows us to really focus on delivering our programming. One high-level key thing about Wave that you might notice on here is we are a nonprofit and we are a non-equity accelerator. So we don't take any shares in the companies that come through. We're fully funded by public and private organizations. Brief overview here of kind of our mission and priorities. So our focus, and I won't read everything out, but really is helping entrepreneurs transform innovative ideas. We really want to be that stage where we get companies from step 1 to step 2. You may have heard the phrase from 0 to 1. We believe we're that next stage to get them from 1 to 2, really validating business models, then helping them accelerate into high scale growth. So being that community player, that ecosystem partner to help drive and unlock strategic value across the state. So our theme for this ongoing year is accelerating Florida's innovation ecosystem. What that entails is a 3-part focus. So continuing to build world-class programs. So, we've been ranked across the country in various articles about our effectiveness, but also our diversity focus, which I'll go into a bit later. We've also expanded from the accelerator model into a secondary core model. I'm going to cover that as well. And then we were ranked as the second point here, recruiting world-class startups. So we've actually expanded our reach from a regional focus at the start to a global recruiting accelerator. For example, our latest cohort in cyber tech has 4 international companies out of the 15 that are participating, including one as far as Australia. So he's been coming every week of the session to, experience it in person. We were ranked number 1 for early stage investor deal flow in Southeast US by Panoramic Ventures' annual report. And then finally, the world-class results. We believe that for an accelerator our size with a non-equity focus and the region that we're in, our metrics are far and above our colleagues in the same space. I'll cover a little bit more about the metrics, but the biggest thing for us is all these results will lead to bolster the reputation in Tampa and to our community and our ecosystem partners. As I said, we're not in this for the equity. We're in this really for unlocking the potential of the region and the state as a startup, as being a startup leader. Everyone tends to think of the coasts, New York, California, and even Austin to this degree. But Southeast US has been historically overlooked, and we're hoping to be a part of that change. Brief overview of kind of our org chart. If you can believe it, a year ago, we had 6 people on the team. Now we're trending towards 12 and 13. So we're growing fast. Fortunately, we landed a couple high value grants along the way, but in addition to that, our goals and ambitions are justifying the need for this staff. So as you can see, Linda Olson's our founder, CEO, president. All this has come from her hard work there. Yeah, so we have 2 main divisions here, the accelerator team and the core team. And that's kind of what we're scaling out. That's why core is a little bit smaller there. So organizational goals, we are doing 5 90-day accelerator programs this year. For comparison, last year we did 3. So if you take 90 times 5, you know, I may not be the best at math, but I know that's more than a year. So something's overlapping, but we're going to find a way to make it work. So it's going to be an exciting year for us in 23 here, but you know, we're looking forward to it. Core membership, really looking to scale that up. If you can believe it, that only launched in the later half of last year. And so from a ground up approach, we're trying to get 100 paying members on that on a subscription basis. My team leading the investor relations, we're looking to raise 150 million in follow-on capital, in addition to the 300 million total goal that we have for the year to break through that 1 billion overall raised. And then we're continuing to follow fundraising, you know, as a nonprofit. That's, I think many of us share that goal. So looking to unlock strategic partnerships and sponsorships. Going into the metrics, I mentioned a couple of the times here. Over the 10 years of the accelerator, we've supported over 460 startups from all over the globe. $700 million have been raised by those startups, with 550 of it coming from follow-on investment after coming through the wave. And then as a result, we've been able to calculate 4,200 jobs being created from those companies. Per our reports, jobs created is always hard to get from startups, but so we think that value is understated, but we still believe it's fairly significant on a per startup basis. Recent news that we've had here at Wave that we're pretty proud of is securing a federal grant with the help of Representative Kathy Castor for a Latin founder-focused accelerator. The timelines on that are still being determined, but that's going to allow us to really tap into, you know, a group of a background group here in Tampa that, you know, has been historically overlooked, even though it's such highly represented in the history of the region. So we're hoping to do that. It is open global, so you know, anybody with a Latin heritage background is eligible to apply for that program. And we'll be releasing more details about the structure around that in the coming months. Last year, we also secured a $2 million EDA grant to fuel job creation, small businesses, and really unlocking private investment in the region. Florida has been historically in the startup community lower on funding on both a private investment, you know, either through venture capital or angel investment, but also on the SBIR funding. So I know that's been covered a number of times here on the fast calls, but that is something that I'll be getting into later, that as Wave hits its goals this year, that's one of the things we want to make sure it's on there. And then just, I mentioned earlier, but opened a brand new office space, and we had our grand opening, and you can see Paul in the back there behind the photo there. So we were happy to have him there on site that day. Question. So a lot of people sometimes ask, what is an accelerator? And I know a lot of us in here might know it, but a brief overview, I'll give you what we actually call an accelerator at Wave and how we structure it. So at the top for us, zero equity, no cost program. Most accelerators around the country will take anywhere from 4 to 8% of a startup's equity, usually in exchange for dollars, but sometimes not. And that's just a fundamental rule at Wave that Linda wanted to incorporate from the beginning. Our informal tagline for the program is for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And, you know, she wants to stick to that for the foreseeable future, right? Never doing anything that would compromise the ability of a startup to thrive. We operate in 90-day cycles. So 3 weeks in person, about a month apart, recruiting B2B or B2E SaaS startups. So we don't do too much into heavy device plays or farm or life sciences. And actually those type of companies, whenever we get those leads, I often lead those back to high tech corridor, because Though, you guys are the best well-connected people in the state for that. Typically, we have a number of events throughout the session. We'll have a welcome reception. The programs always culminate in a community pitch night. Demo day is a day strictly for investors, so we try to unlock some capital flow for them through that event. Over the 90 days, they've received over 60 hours of content and workshops. That is not including private coaching. So if you include private coaching, it usually goes well over 100. We also do a lot of community events through the accelerator, alumni fireside chats, CEO roundtables. And then we have a mentor network of 150 subject matter experts across a variety of verticals, all volunteers, to guide our companies through mentor speed dating, aka the surge, pitch practice, and then one-on-one coaching as well. The 5 programs that we are focusing on for this year are cyber tech, tech diversity, which is vertical agnostic, fintech, which is financial focused companies, health tech, and then Latin tech, which is going to be vertical agnostic as well. Brief overview of our schedule here. But cyber tech and tech diversity, we're those are fixed dates, but fintech, health tech, and Latin tech could slowly shift. One thing we're very proud of at the Wave is our diversity metrics. So 60% of our founders from the accelerators are from underrepresented founding groups, and then 40% of that of overall figures is female founded companies. So really strong focus for us here to fuel that mission, give spotlight to founders that don't typically get into a lot of the accelerator programs, and also create a new touch point for them in the community. Recruiting is a key effort here. Always be recruiting, is the kind of our going statement there. Our highest value source is alumni outreach. Through a referral program, the content of our program and the quality really lends itself to additional essentially deal flow for us from our network. We spend a lot of time traveling and representing not only Wave, but also the state of Florida in national and global conferences. For example, we're going to be going to South by Southwest in March in a team of 6 to really promote the mission of Florida being a valuable place for startups to settle and build their businesses here. We also recruit through any of our network members, so advisory council, mentors, sponsors, investors, community partners, et cetera. And then we have a few other systems-based recruiting that we can do, but we have supported founders from over 24 countries. So that kind of reach is hard to get. And in my comparative analysis with other accelerators, it's rare to see that kind of spread. Moving over to our second model. So CORE is another program that we have here. It offers year-round access rather than the 90-day schedule. Usually this is fit heavily for early stage companies. So they could be anywhere from just having launched to not having raised any capital. So they're really getting those early steps, and where a 90-day pace would simply be too fast for them. It's also a place where we put our alumni companies into, so post-accelerator companies, to go into after the program so they can stay connected to the Wave network. CORE is a little bit different in that there is a fee for CORE. There's still no equity, but there is a fee that can often be offset by certain incentives and sponsorships. One big deliverable about CORE is the Women of Wave, or WOW project that we're building underneath. This is still an iterative process, but it is a unique cultivated network of advisors, of women advisors providing support to women entrepreneurs. We really want to make it a core focus. It's a direct mission from Linda Olson to our director of CORE, Karen Sperger. So we're really proud of this initiative. We've got some great leaders on staff there, and hoping this is going to be a great differentiating point for us as well. Just talking a bit about the mentor network. This is an example of our mentor surge that we had. Really, this is I think this is the core value of what Wave brings to all of its programming, is we're able to tap into really high achieving individuals throughout our region. Many of them are founders themselves, having prior exits. Many of them are C-suites or similar at their respective organizations, bringing decades of experience that our founders wouldn't be able to gather themselves without spending time and money, both of which they don't have in easy supply. So it's really cutting those timelines short for them, giving them the tips they need, mistakes that they've made themselves, and helping companies avoid the pitfalls that can be avoided. The investor network is also something we're really proud of. A big part of our mission is the day-to-day, recruiting of investors and matching with companies. This is how we hit our deal flow numbers that we have. Over 400 investors in the network, 150 of them have been distinctly invested into Wave companies. They're spread across the nation, and these are some of the more recognizable names, particularly in the Florida region, but even up to Atlanta, some in New York, and even as far as out west. Many of our companies go on to future accelerators, such as Y Combinator, Techstars, and Plug and Play. And those are some of the top 3 accelerators in the country. So the next initiative that we really have at Wave that we're excited about this year is building out a SBIR or STTR program at Wave that is open for Wave founders and non-Wave founders. Essentially, we want to be that front door experience for companies that have heard about the idea of raising the non-dilutive funding through these programs, but really are either intimidated by the process, don't know where to go, or don't know if they have a fit for their type of company. So this is something we're actively building, always looking for partners to build this effort. The way we see it playing out is, again, like I said, using that front door experience, creating community sessions to open up the funnel, but also creating really impactful calendar of workshops, fireside chats. They're not really alumni at this point, but founders or companies who have gone through the process before and hearing their experience. We're also building strategic partnerships with, many organizations like Florida High Tech Corridor, MacDill Air Force Base. One of their lieutenant commanders and chief of innovation is on our mentor network and is willing to help out in this project as well. We're very close with SOCOM out here in Tampa. In fact, we're holding our cybertech pitch night at their facility over in Ybor. And then also working closely with the state and university programs, as this will be a good catch-all for some of those high research companies that I said don't necessarily fit our accelerators, but might be great for this path. We've added and I'll jump a little bit ahead here. We've added an SBIR advisor to the team here. He is part-time, but he's been helping out in tremendous value for our cyber group. His name is Kirk Burton. He's got 20 years serving in the U.S. Army, over 15 years as an innovation consultant, and really knows deeply about helping companies with the match, and then also is bringing a wealth of material that he's created himself over that time to get these companies a shorter timeline or reduce hesitancy. That's kind of the 2 metrics that we see coming out of that. I think I might be running on time here, but yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me. This QR code also, like I said, we're always recruiting for any startups, mentors, or investors. So if you feel free to scan your phone, send me a lead, whether it's to connect or if you have any connections to make, I'm happy to be that source of that. So, but I'll look through the questions here on the deck and let's see. Yes.
Yeah, so we did have one question about why the Wave is organized as nonprofit. What are the advantages to that structure?
Yeah, the advantages is a good question about what are the advantages, but I think the biggest advantage for us is by being a nonprofit, and not having the equity stake, we don't have that mentality of a VC fund where we play our favorites or we play our winners. Every company that comes through, once they're in the program, they're the same. And I think that allows us to have that freedom from a vested interest, where if you have an equity stake in certain ones and those are going to work, you might tend to lead harder to those. So I really appreciate that aspect of it. I also think it further contributes to kind of our mission to just be for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. It's a safe environment. They're more open to engaging with us at the top of funnel, and particularly with the region that we're in, knowing that we're maybe a tier 3 or even tier 4 startup location compared to the rest of the nation, it definitely helps from reducing friction for applications. I hope that kind of answers that. Let's see here. Nonprofit model advantage, administration. Maybe Joseph, I could use some clarification on how do you gain administration to your program, but I'll answer Taryn's questions here. So funding operations. Again, we're a nonprofit, so we continually see grants from the federal, state, and local level, as well as public and private organizations. So, for example, our tech diversity program is fully funded by the Nielsen Foundation, and they funded that for about 3 years here. So a significant capital contributed for that. Cybersecurity is funded by private organizations. So KnowBe4 Security, Align auditing software, both out of Tampa here. Who else? EY and a couple other corporate sponsors there. FinTech is in partnership with USF St. Pete. So that's been a really great partnership there. Allows us to bridge a little bit of our efforts into St. Pete as well. Latin Tech will be funded by the EDA grant, and let's see, healthcare is going to be funded by a combination of the EDA grant and sponsors that we're still looking for.
And then this is Joe Simmons. I'm assuming that the application process is no more than going to your website and applying there.
It is, yeah. So we have an application through a program called GUST, but the links are all available on our website, or they can reach out directly through to us, and we can assist them with that process too. So it's very simple. We're always recruiting for all the programs year round, regardless of whether the application is open or not. We're happy to engage anyone at any time. So.
Okay. I'll let, if anyone else says, I have a couple questions, but I'll let anyone else jump in. Feel free to unmute if you have a question. Okay, yeah, thanks, Amy, for the deal. So I guess I have a question for you on that. So you said a lot of your programs, I don't know if it's all of them, it seems like a lot of them have, you can apply as an entrepreneur outside the Tampa Bay region. I know you said one of your programs, you've had more than companies from 24 countries participate. Obviously, I've assumed you work with companies all over the state of Florida. Are there any kind of not special requirements, but what do companies out of kind of the Tampa network need to keep in mind if they're applying to be a part of your program?
We do not have any sort of requirements either from a local ECDev or anything to, they have to move here or they have to establish roots. A lot of the times the region speaks for itself. So on average, about every cohort we get, we do have about 25 to 30% of the cohort engaging in conversations with local ECDevs, and usually one or two of them actually do either move here or form a second HQ. There's a few region advantages. I don't have them off the top of my head, but there's no specific requirement from our end. And our biggest goal, just coming back to it, is really showcasing to the region and to our network here the talent that is out there from a high quality startup perspective. And when we were focusing on a regional perspective, we couldn't have as successful cohorts focusing solely on the region, but we have seen over the last 2 to 3 years here, the startup environment has tremendously grown and in Tampa, and significant, a few hubs have opened up, 2 or 3 additional hubs. I'm sure many of you have heard of Embark Collective, Tampa Bay Innovation Center. Those are 2 of the ones that are top of mind here that have opened in the last 2 or 3 years. So we believe we're seeing success in that. It's a slow road, but we believe it's a community effort at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, seeing the growth from a meetup group to what you are now is pretty amazing. So yeah,
it's pretty incredible that it was just a meetup group of local founders. And yeah, I think we've, our way of growth is really I think our secret sauce, honestly, is being willing to kind of study and go to other parts of the country and seeing how other regions are doing it and other programs are doing it. Our managing director, many of you may have met him, Dr. Richard Manassi, he's participated in several accelerators throughout his lifetime as a multiple-time founder, but really taking the best stuff from YC, from Techstars, from Mass Challenge, bringing that in-house here, allows us to pick kind of what works, what doesn't, and keep that secret sauce going. So it has allowed us to kind of have the impact and feedback from companies that this has been better than other accelerators where I actually paid equity. And that when we hear that, that's rewarding, but also kind of disappointing because we're wondering what other people are doing out there, so it's interesting when you hear it from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. We have time for one more question if there is anybody.
I have a programmatic question, if I may. Congratulations on your success. I'm from Florida Atlantic University, and I joined on the phone initially, so I may have misheard this. But I heard you say there were 5 cycles of 90 days. Is this the founders have to go through all 5 90-day cycles to, I guess, graduate or move on, or they're all separate and after 90 days, they're ready to move on?
No, great question, and apologies if I didn't make that clear. No, they are independent cycles with independent cohorts. So our cyber group will just focus on that 90-day program for them. And then we move on to a new cohort of tech, diverse founders for tech diversity, and so on and so on. They do get the core membership for 3 months after. So we provide ongoing support after the 90 days as well. And usually, typically, we also do continuing support in some form for the rest of their, once you're part of Wave, we like to say you're always part of Wave. But from a strict programming perspective, it's limited to the 90 days.
Amit, it's Terry. When you're putting together your courses, your 90-day cycles and so forth, do you hire externally for that, or do you use internal talent for that purpose, or do you just get volunteers who like to help people out?
Yeah, no, it's a combination of all 3. So
Okay.
A lot of it is internal knowledge that we have at this point, having done it enough. So for example, we'll do self-guided, meaning our staff will handle investor conversations or investor pipe, things like that. Pitch practice, pitch reviews, things like that. We'll do that on site. But for the specialized things such as talking about term sheets, or talking about legal organization, or sales and marketing, right? Or how to, any sort of informational session that really requires a subject matter expert, that's where we tap into our mentor network of volunteers. Okay. And so they come in, we try to be very clear about not making any of this sales. It's all informational. Usually like to mix it up in a panel, so there's different perspectives. The more we can get our alumni founders into the show is even better, because then it's a give and take between the service provider and a founder who's done it before, right? And so that perspective keeps it fresh, keeps us authentic. And the big thing for us is really keeping a closed door session too. That builds that trust with the founders in the group, that they know that this is an open door session or closed door session for them to ask open questions.
Are your mentors prevented from investing in the companies or being hired by the companies and so forth?
Yeah, they're not prevented specifically. The only thing we want to make sure, we're very strict about this too, is there can't be any sort of solicitation. So they all mentors sign a no solicitation agreement. With that being said, though, we know our mentors are all busy professionals, and we coach the startups to be, 1, wary of the time, but then 2, if they have a particular good relationship with a certain mentor or service provider, as long as it's all clear and people are on the same page, there's nobody taking advantage, then we feel safe with that going forward. Same with investment too, right? It's not investment in terms of investment for advice, right? It would have to be its own engagement option.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it, Amit.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for the great questions.
And if you are able to hang on for the rest of the next 25 minutes or so, if you have questions, keep putting them in the chat for Amit, and keep engaging that way. That would be great.
I'll be here. Yep, thanks.
So I'll close this out, or not close this out, but I'll talk through now. So we've talked a bit about the, and I guess I'll do my intro, but so I'm a little bit at the beginning. I'm Jack Hinkle. I'm a senior cluster manager working with the Influence initiative of the Florida High Tech Corridor, and also with FL Fast. So we've talked for a couple months about the upcoming training, some upcoming resources beyond this call, and what we're going to be working on. So I'm really happy to share today sort of the schedule for the rest of the year, or through the end of September, some of the resources we have coming online, and some of the trainings and the programs that we're going to have coming up. So I'm going to talk through that. So same deal. Put any questions in the chat that you have, and we will answer them at the end, or if it's kind of really important, I'll jump in to answer it as we go. So we talk about the technical assistance, or the technical and business assistance through FAST. There's really kind of 3 main areas, 3 main categories that we're looking at. So one is, and I have a little bit more detail on each of these. One is we have our what we're just calling our virtual training series. So this is a series of virtual workshops. Most of them are 90 minutes long, covering topics related to the high level, what is SBIR's TTR program, and then some topic focused sessions there. We have experts that are providing all the training, and everything will be recorded and made available afterwards as well. So in these, the goal of this training series is more the broad level SBIR's TTR. So we'll have some examples of different agencies, but not doing a deep dive on any one particular agency. Which leads me to the second part is we're going to take a smaller number of companies and help them through what we're calling kind of agency specific cohorts. So we're picking 2 agencies, and we're going to work with up to 15 total companies across the 2 between now and September. And so the National Science Foundation is the first agency that we're focusing on because of its kind of broad applicability, because it has the submission process. There's a lot of flexibility in getting into NSF. And so we're going to be focusing on NSF for our first cohort, launching in a couple of months. And then we have a train the trainer, which is more focused on this audience. So it's how can we give more resources and tools to the accelerators, incubators, ecosystem builders across the state as you work with companies and clients and to help them go through the SBIR process or kind of understand whether or not they qualify. So we'll arm you with some tools there. So I'm going to give a little bit more detail on the 3 of these. So for that first, the virtual training series, this is more largely in a webinar format. So all the sessions are 90 minutes long. The audience is basically anybody with an interest in SBIR's TTR. So your clients, your companies, if they're entrepreneurs who aren't sure they want to go through SBIR or not, these sessions will be perfect for them, for you, for anybody on your team. If you want to send some of your team is interested in learning more about SBIR and how you can work with companies and kind of what is the big picture. These will be really broadly open and available. We're working with BBC Entrepreneurial Training and Consulting, who've done some work down here in the state to host all of these sessions. And really the goal is just be better prepared to submit proposals and understand the overall process. We have 4 sessions, and at the end of all of this, we'll put links in the chat to register for all these sessions. All the registrations are available, so we'll make that. We'll put that in the chat and as a follow-up. But the 4 sessions, again, basically anybody can attend with an interest in SBIR's TTR. March 9th is an ABCs of SBIR, so kind of the high level, what is the program, what do you need to know, differences between SBIR's TTR, things like that. And then in May, we'll do a session focused on the commercialization plan. So if you're familiar with SBIR, you know that the commercialization plan is a really critical part to most proposals because you need to say not just the R&D you're developing, but how are you going to get that to market? And so we'll cover some of the agency expectations from a commercialization plan. What is it? What are some examples? What does it look like? What is the type of market research that goes into an effective commercialization plan? What's the value, or how do you sort of get the best quality support and commitment letters to validate your commercialization plan? So topics like that will be covered on that session. On June 14th, we'll have a session focused completely on developing your SBIR and STTR budget. So how do you calculate your indirect rates? What is even an allowable cost and non-allowable cost, right? A lot of times you'll see first-time proposers to SBIR, STTR, they'll focus on getting their proposal together, and then it's the last 24 hours. It's like, oh, we need to get a budget, we need to get bios, we need to get all these other supplemental pieces together. And so we'll try to have some resources to help answer some of those. What goes into what does a good SBIR, STTR budget look like? What's an allowable cost? How do you put that together? And then we'll repeat the ABCs of SBIR later in the year on September 14th. So kind of sandwiching in these what are SBIR 101 type sessions with some more specific topic focused sessions. And again, anybody on your team, any clients, any companies you work with can attend these. If you attend live, you can ask questions to the speakers, but we will also be recording them and making the recordings available. So you'll be able to direct any of your companies towards those afterwards as well. So those will be resources broadly available and all for free. So these are all free sessions. There's no fee to attend any of these. And they're all through Zoom. The next piece that we're going to be launching is the these agency cohorts, where we really want to take up to 8 entrepreneurs and help them get from the kind of the the initial stage of the National Science Foundation SBR program all the way through ready to submit a proposal. And that includes, we'll have resources specific to NSF, sessions talking about how the specific process for submitting through NSF. There's, every agency is different. They all have their own process to submit and their own sites and portals and that kind of thing. So we'll walk through a lot of that. We'll do proposal reviews for companies that are accepted. So this is, you have to apply to be accepted into this program. And so we'll accept 8 into the cohort. And it'll, but one thing that we are doing, so with NSF, they have what's called a project pitch. So you basically submit a 1 to 2 page summary of what you want to propose for an SBIR, and NSF must approve your project pitch before you're basically allowed to submit a full proposal. So one requirement we have of our cohort is we need companies that have an accepted project pitch from NSF to be a part of this cohort. So you have to have that, because otherwise a lot of the other content won't make sense. It's all geared towards submitting your proposal. But what we're doing before that, the cohort starts in April, is in March, we're going to have a number of basically info sessions and Q&A sessions where any entrepreneur that thinks they might want to apply for NSF or is actively in the process of putting together a project pitch can join. We'll talk through that process of the project pitch, and then we'll answer questions, help kind of figure out topic matching and that kind of thing, so that to basically get companies ready to submit the project pitch, get that approved before the start of the cohort so they can be a part of that. So that's just sort of some pre sessions before the cohort, some informational sessions where we'll help get hands-on a little bit with companies that are kind of interested in and want to go through that process. So the dates for the 2 of these pieces, so the info sessions and kind of Q&A, we're going to do 3 of those. So in the middle of March 6th and 10th and 15th. Any entrepreneur can join those if there's an interest in going through an NSF SBIR process. And so we'll talk through the process, what goes into a project pitch, some things we've seen that, why project pitches tend to get rejected, at least in our experience. And so we'll share some of those and try to get companies ready to submit to NSF. And then the actual cohort itself will be from April 18th to July 5th, because July 5th is the NSF deadline for that submission window. So once you have an accepted project pitch, we'll have a really short basically application to be a part of that. You don't have to go to the info sessions. If you already have a project pitch or you have a company with a project pitch, they can apply to be part of the cohort. You don't have to go to the info sessions. That's just another resource specific to National Science Foundation that we wanted to offer. So through this cohort, we'll have weekly or bi-weekly check-ins. We'll have templates for the proposal itself. We'll make sure that the entrepreneurs in that cohort are going through or at the right stage in the process to be on target to submit for the July 5th the July 5th deadline. So that is one of our agency specific cohorts. The second one is likely Department of Energy, and that would actually start in mid-July, but we'll have more information on that as we go. So, but Department of Energy is likely our second cohort with a similar structure to what you see here. So we'll be sharing more about that coming up. And the third part is our train-the-trainer. So this is a single session, 90-minute session, also with BBC. And the whole goal of this, so the target for this is everybody on this call and all of your colleagues and people in the ecosystem in Florida, basically anybody that supports, mentors, or helps entrepreneurs. And so the whole goal of this, there's a little bit of understanding the basic SBIR requirements, but it's also, there'll be some specific tools that you can use as you're helping your clients or your companies sort of evaluate if they're eligible and navigating that SBIR process. So this is not for entrepreneurs. This is for anybody on this call, any of you or your colleagues or anybody in the network that you'd be interested in. So this will be on August 23rd. Again, virtual, it's free, so no fees for any of the programs that we're having, and it will be also recorded, and we'll make that available afterwards as well as a resource. So we'll share links to how do you participate, how do you RSVP for the different sessions. But this is just kind of a quick summary of the target audience, whether it's anybody, entrepreneurs, ecosystem builders, and the dates. So I'll share the slides on this chart as a summary, and the information will all be on the FAST website as well. that was a little bit quick, kind of high level. Just wanted to share some of what we've been working on and what's going to be coming up and planned. So I'll check the chat for any questions. Yep, Terrence, absolutely. There's no charge for any of the sessions that we'll be doing. So are there any questions about those?
Jack, for the agency-specific cohorts, do you have a sense of when you're going to start, soliciting or receiving applications for those two programs, or I guess NSF to start?
Yeah, so the application will be open by the end of this week. So we'll have it available. So like I said, if you have a company that has an accepted project pitch or is kind of planning on going that, then we will. That'll be available at the end of the week for companies to submit to be a part of that.
Awesome.
Yolanda, yes, we'll send you on this call. I'll send a recording session. I'll send the PowerPoint. I'll send links to all the sessions to RSVP. So you'll have all of that in a follow-up by the end of the week, by Friday. Well, we always leave a few minutes at the end, so feel free to chime in with any additional questions. We're excited about a lot of the training, a lot of this activity that these resources we'll have available. There's a lot of ways to connect, as you see, both for entrepreneurs and to build capacity amongst the, all of us that work with entrepreneurs throughout the states. We're excited to have all of these as resources that you can utilize for your own companies and for your own programs too. So we'll take any questions on, I'll move on. There's a couple quick announcements, and then at the end, if you're hosting an event or you have a resource and you want to make an announcement for a program that you have, or if you have a question for Ahmed or me or myself, we'll have a couple minutes at the end. So we'll kind of have an open floor at the end of the program after a couple of quick announcements. So two things, or a couple of quick things to point out to this group. So the deadline is coming up at the end of the week for the Growth Accelerator Fund competition. We've announced this for the past couple months, but this is a prize competition through the SBA for for innovative practices in supporting entrepreneurial ecosystems. It's a two-staged grant program, so there is still time if you're interested to apply. This is coming up at the end of the week is the application deadline for this. And then I'll keep pointing it out, kind of ties into the train the trainer piece, but the SBA will be launching a kind of a self-guided, self-paced train the trainer type of course as well. So they'll have some resources from the SBA about navigating the SBA program. So that's all going to be brand new. They're redeveloping all the resources they had. So keep an eye out for that. One big event so if you're already connected in the SBIR ecosystem, or you want to get more connected, you want to meet program managers and hear about some of the latest updates. The Tech Connect conference that happens every June is co-located with the spring SBIR TTR conference. This is a major conference. If you can attend, it's in DC, June 19th to 21st. Program managers from basically every SBIR agency are there. You get a chance to meet them, talk to them, hear updates about programs or changes they're making in their individual program. So it's a really strong, really good event if you want to stay connected on with the SBIR and kind of with the federal innovation ecosystem program. So the SBA is there, EDA is there typically. So great event if you want to get more connected into this network and this community. And just a reminder on some of the open solicitations for your companies. There's a lot open right now from Department of Defense, Department of Education. One of the newest ones that opened up is the Department of Transportation has opened up since our last call. It's due in a few weeks, but so you can see here some of the solicitations. They're open now for your companies, and then coming up, there's some more DoD and NIST topics to be released soon. So, and again, I'll share the slides and all these. Our next call is March 21st, so a month from today at 1 o'clock. We'll have 2 new speakers for next month and sharing updates that we might have. So I will see some couple things in the chat here. Yep, thanks, Amy. Yep, we're going to share all the materials and resources afterwards. So we have a couple of minutes. If there's any saw Amit was answering some questions in the chat. If you have questions for Amit, for myself, or any announcements for your own programs, if you have trainings, if you have events coming up, feel free to share them, put them in the chat. And I'll be happy to share those too as a follow-up to everybody.
Hey, Jack, this is Quentin Wells with DataKind. I'm putting into the chat an Eventbrite link for a webinar that we're hosting with the Central Florida Foundation tomorrow at 4 p.m. It's how to leverage AI and other predictive technologies to advance mission impact. It's really focused on nonprofits, but we have over 700 registrants from around Florida, and it includes a lot of small for-profit organizations as well. So all are welcome to join.
Okay, excellent. And is that going to be recorded afterwards?
It will.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put that in follow too. Excellent.
Well, and the link is a little broken. Is it okay if I post the corrected link?
Thank you, Rose. Yes.
Problem.
There you go. Okay, perfect. That works. Okay. Anybody else have any announcements from their programs or events you have coming up, resources? If
A
not, we'll
quick shameless plug for our tech accelerator. We have applications opening March 3rd, and we're in South Florida. We don't require fully in person for the 9 to 12 months. Hybrid is fine. So if you know of any founders that have any tech-based technologies and our own 51% in Florida, then they would be eligible and their revenue would be less than $1 million. So we focus on early stage, and I'll drop a link in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. Excellent. I'm also realizing one event that they're not making the slides is in August. There's the Small Business Success Summit that the SBDC is putting on. So that's a statewide conference as well that I will. I'll put a link in the chat here, and we'll send it as a follow-up to you. Perfect. Well, I think that's it. Unless anybody else has anything they'd like to share, we will give everybody back a few minutes of your day. Perfect. I'll put that link in the chat. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jack.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Amit.
Thank you.
Thank you.